Welcome to the Companion Chapel. My name is Michael, and we are going to study Genesis chapter 30 today. And now you know, students of the Companion Chapel, that we examine the Bible by covering each chapter by chapter and verse by verse, book by book, for you to absorb the precious subject matter being conveyed. We know you feel there's more to God's Word than you're being taught, and we invite you to discover the Word of God with us. So here we are in Genesis chapter 30. Now, we just finished up Genesis chapter 29, and we'll do a little review. We're getting into the 12 patriarchs. We're getting into Jacob's children, and he's going to have 12 boys, and they're going to become the 12 tribes of Israel as we know it. And so before we get into chapter 30, verse 1, we'll say a little prayer, and we repent in Yeshua Messiah's perfect, precious name. And we pray for wisdom, understanding, counsel, knowledge, and strength in Jesus' perfect, precious name. And here we are in chapter 30, verse 1. We already have Leah, who's given, who Jacob's had 2 kids with. Actually, 4. So Reuben would be the eldest, and then Simon, and then Levi, which is the priest line, and then Judah, which is the king line. But that's fine. Now, we know also by the last chapter that Jacob loved Rachel, and he worked hard for Rachel. And then Laban, the old slickster, little con man, he got Leah in there on a technicality, and I know it says in verse 30 of 29, actually 31, when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, it's a terrible word, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. Now this word hated means love less, and we run into this in the New Testament also. Jacob was sweet on Rachel, and Leah was Rachel's sister, and we're just going to let the Bible flow here. Here we are in Genesis chapter 30, verse 1. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. Well, there's some drama going on there. Let's just examine this verse before we move on. Rachel envied her sister. Well, that's an interesting word. We know this word envy means jealous. And right away, that should take you to Proverbs chapter 24, around verse 7. There's, wrath is cruel. And I'm reading Psalms, 27:4. Wrath is cruel. Anger is outrageous. But who is able to stand before jealousy? That's a psalm. That's Proverb 27:4. It's a proverb. Who is able to stand before jealousy? Who is able to stand before envy? Once that gets into a household, you got some big problems. A divided house cannot stand. The spirit of envy, the spirit of jealousy will destroy a household. And what's showing up here, Rachel envied her sister, said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. Here we go, chapter 30. Genesis verse 2. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, Am I God stayed, who hath withheld thee from the fruit of thy womb? Like, there's some tension here. He said, well, what, you think I'm God? You think I can help what's going on here? So we got a little bit of family drama going on here. And we see what envy does. It's a destroyer. It's an evil spirit fueled by demons. And it's fueled by what we call the one world system, as 4 hidden dynasties Satan is running. And one of them is education, information, and what we get in that World Wide Web. We can see, and me and Tammy see it here all the time with our workers. We run a little construction company out of this office, and we employ a bunch of guys, and we see what envy and jealousy does to some of these guys' personal lives. A lot of it starts on that computer, on those chat message, Facebook type things here. So here we have, this all applies to us in this time, and it applied back then. So here we go, verse 3. chapter 30, Genesis. And she said, Behold, my maid Bilhah, go unto her, and she shall bear unto my niece, that I may also have children by her. And so Rachel's saying, you know what, I want some kids in my corner. My sister is banging them out. She's had 4 kids already: Reuben, Simon, Levi, Judah. And here's Rachel, and there's some tension going on here. And she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid wife, to Jacob. And Jacob went unto her. Now, let's go, what's going on here? This is strictly in accordance with the law of the time. They had to live by the code of Kamuraba, and this was all good. If the wife had a handmaid, it was fine. God said, replenish the earth. And first off, God hadn't given us all the laws yet. He had given some laws, but he was going by the law of the land, so he can't blame Jacob here. And she gave him Bilhah her handmaid, and Jacob went unto her. 5, and Bilhah conceived, and bare Jacob a son. 6, and Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan, and Dan means judge. So we're getting some literal translations here of what's going on. So Bilhah has one son, Dan. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 kids from Jacob here, and we know he has 12. So let's just see what happens here. So we're just recording where these 12 patriarchs came from, and it becomes known as the 12 tribes of Israel. And let's just see what happens here. We're in verse 7. And Bilhah, Rachel's maid, conceived again, and bare Jacob a second son. Genesis 30, verse 8. And Rachel said, with the great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali, which literally means my wrestling. And listen to the undertone, reading between the lines, rightly dividing the word. There's envy. There's strife going on here. There's anger. There's a wrath. As you can see, Rachel said, I wrestled with my sister. Great wrestling. There's some girls going at it here in this household, and poor old Jacob's putting up with it and doing the best he can. He's doing a good job. He's got a bunch of kids out of it. And let's just move on here. 8, and Rachel 9. And Leah saw that she had left bearing, and took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. So, is this tit for tat? Is anyone complaining? Just the girls are complaining at home. That's fine. This is how God wanted to replenish the earth. This is all God's plan. These are the 12 patriarchs, and this is a big deal. We're just seeing how they came about, and the bloodlines. And this is it's in accordance with the law back then. And we'll just carry on here. So we're at verse 11. And Leah said, a troop cometh, and she called his name Gad. And that means a troop. So there is a troop of kids happening here. Bunch of youngins running around. And Zilpah, 12. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a second son. 13. And Leah said, happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher, which means happy. And so we're just filling up the bloodlines here. Remember that we have the priest line, Levi, to carry the word. We have the king line, which we know Jesus Christ, Yeshua Messiah, came through that king line. Christ's seed line was unblemished. This was an unblemished seed line. Satan copies never say it's so Satan can never say anything to fulfill Genesis 3:15. Satan wants to violate the principles of God. You cannot violate the principles of God. God cannot allow that without consequence. This unblemished seed line, so that Satan can never say that he interfered with this seed line or came through this seed line in any which way. So it's important to follow, and it's important that it's written, and God doesn't have any words to waste. So here we are, 14. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray, of thy son's mandrakes. Now, mandrakes was a weed, and when you pulled it out, it resembled a man's stuff. And people back then, with their superstitions, like we have superstitions now, considered it an aphrodisiac. So they were called mandrakes. So Reuben's out there. He picks a weed, brings it back, and watch what the girls do. And she said unto her, is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? Well, first Rachel said to Leah, give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. 15. And she said unto her, is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? And wouldest thou now take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. So this is just tit for tat bickering over superstitious stuff. It's considered an aphrodisiac. Is it? It's just a weed. Maybe it makes you feel good like a tea. It's still around today. You can check it out on the internet. And she said unto her, or let's go to 16. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. So, she made a deal. She made a deal with Rachel. Like she hired to have Jacob come in from the field. No, you got to think like this. These girls are sitting there arguing about a weed all day that one of the young'uns went out there and picked. And here comes Jacob back in. What time do you think Jacob got up in the morning? Jacob's out there all day with the sun beating down on the back of his neck. He's out there working. He's coming home with an empty lunchbox. He's hungry. He's done, man. He's had a day's work. And he wants to come home and listen to these people arguing about a weed. Hey, I'm going to bed. And God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived and bare Jacob a fifth son. 18. And Leah said, God hath given me hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar, which means his hired wages. So it's almost like they're making deals. There's stuff being passed back and forth. There's a lot of bickering, envy, wrestling, like not wrestling, but a mighty wrestling as a figure of speech for just arguing. And this is what's happening in the household right now. And we can see that a divided house can't stand, but this household's holding it together. And Jacob, they're taking care of their guy. Jacob's coming home and he's feeding his family. Let's just go on to 20. And Leah said, and Leah conceived again and bare Jacob a sixth son. And Leah said, 20, God hath endued me with a good dowry. Now with my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. So we have Reuben from Leah. We have Simon. We have Levi, the priest line. We have Judah, the king line. Issachar and Zebulun. And she considers it a good dowry. Like, what's that mean? Leah gave Jacob 6 kids. Jacob's got to love her to pieces no matter what. He's got to look at her and go, wow, man, that woman gave me 6 boys. And so she feels secure in her spot. No matter that, she knows that Jacob's sweet on Rachel more than her. But she was a good stand-up woman. She held her ground. She didn't back down. And she kept it within reason. She didn't go too far. She didn't take it too far. She didn't go leave or destroy something, or she didn't take it too far. It's the lesson being conveyed here. And they have a nice little family. It's not little anymore. And afterwards she bare a daughter, is 21, and called her name Dinah. Now we're going to see that Dinah comes into play quite a bit here. After, Reuben and Simon watching out for little sis becomes really greasy, but that's fine. 22. And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened unto her and opened her womb. Rachel, the one that we've read about by the well, the one that caught Jacob's eye, the one who's the twinkling in her eyes, she had this sparkle, and she conceived and bare a son and said, God hath taken away my reproach. She was happy. She felt that she was being dissed by God, like disrespected, even if she says that. My reproach. Like there was something wrong with her. And she called his name Joseph, we're in 24 now, and said, the Lord shall add to me another son. And it came to pass, 25, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, so this took a long time. This year after year going. First Laban made him work 7 years for Leah. Then he made him work 7 years for Rachel. So Jacob's been quite the worker. There's been a lot of stuff getting done. Jacob is no slouch. And now all these children, we got some time passing by here. Send me away that I may go into my own place. Jacob's asking, listen, Laban, I've worked for you. I've slugged it out. I've put it down. And we know what Jacob's attitude was like. He was a go guy. He was a get out of my way guy. He was in your face with the facts guy. He was, this is getting done and it's getting done now guy. He was no slouch. 26. He's been gone. This is pushing 25 years. Give me my wives and my children for whom I have served thee, and let me go, for thou knowest my service which I have done thee. And that's interesting. He's done a lot. When he went there, Laban was just cruising by. He was making ends meet. He was putting food on the table. He had some ATM money. He was doing all right. He had a nice little family. Jacob comes into the picture, and Jacob brought something that Laban didn't have. God's blessings. Laban's rich now. He's living large. And 27, let's just watch this. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, I have found favor in thy eyes. Tarry, for I have learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. So we've got to pay attention here. This is important. Laban is recognizing Jehovah, Yeshua Messiah. Laban's recognizing Jehovah. Laban's recognizing God. Laban's recognizing and giving credit to God that the Lord had blessed me for thy sake. You brought God into this picture. So that's very important because we're going to see what Laban's really made out of. And we're just going to continue on here, chapter 30, verse 28. And he said, appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. So, Jacob made Laban rich. And Laban's going, okay, all right, you're going to want to get paid something. Let's make us a deal here. 29. And this is we're always learning. Jacob ended up there because Esau was going to cut his head off. Rebekah said, Jacob, you got to go, and was blessed by Isaac. He got the firstborn blessings. He got Isaac's blessings. And he had God with him. And he cruises over here, and so you're thinking Laban used this guy for years and years. Well, Jacob wasn't living too bad himself. It was hard work. It's no cakewalk. He worked hard. So we're in this situation now. It was win-win. Jacob has a big family now. He's fulfilling what God wanted. He's teaching us all a lesson about you got to get out there and slug it out. It's no cakewalk. You're going to have to serve somebody. And if you do it, do it to the best of your ability. Even if you don't like that person. We're going to see Jacob didn't really like Laban. And Laban didn't really like Jacob. Let's just check it out. 29. And he said unto him, thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. You didn't have much before I came, dude. And now you're living large. Like, you got a big increase going. 30. For it was little which thou had before I came, and now increased into a multitude. And the Lord had blessed thee since my coming. And now when shall I provide for my own house also? Okay, so made Laban rich. And that ends with the question, shall I provide my own house also? And 31, this answers itself. This is really good here. This is a good way to learn how to make a deal, to watch when you're dealing with someone who's going to change the deal halfway. God's always teaching us to be a Christian in no way means to be a doormat. You can hold strong. God's watching, paying attention. He doesn't expect a wimpy person to go out there, I'm a Christian. Oh, this guy's going to rip me off here. You can have it. Or this guy's going to slap me in my face. Oh, go ahead, slap the other side. It's not what being a Christian is. Now that I mentioned the slap the face, when you go to that part of the Bible in the New Testament and the Gospel when Christ is teaching, why do you get a slap in the face? You have to pay attention to what's going on. You get a slap in the face if you're being a Bible thumper, if you're thumping the Bible on someone that doesn't want to hear it. You know what? If you're sitting there going this and that about the Bible and some guy's not ready to hear it, you're going to get a slap in the face, and you should go, ah, man, I deserve another. But if that guy's sitting there and he's going to rip you off, and he's going to try and take your bus money, or he's going to try and take your paycheck, or he's going to try and blow up this contract, just, you stand up, Christian. And we're going to learn here what happens. 31, and he said, Genesis 30:31, and he said, what shall I give thee? And Jacob said, thou shalt not give me anything. For thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep the flock. Jacob's got a deal worked out. Jacob knows that he's not going to leave easy. Jacob knows that Laban was using his two daughters. As he even comes up to say, even Rachel says, like, our dad even treated us as strangers. He didn't give them a dowry or nothing. He just was looking about putting the cake in the bank. That's all he was doing. And we're going to see this will teach itself. We have to watch out for people like this, and God is teaching us. And he said, what shall I give thee? And Jacob said, thou shalt not give me anything. We read that, 32. This is Jacob. Now here's a smart guy. He's not trying to con anything. And he said, I will pass through all the flock today, removing from thence all the speckled, spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and spotted speckle among the goats, and such shall be my hire. So, let's just use the word livestock. He's going to go through that huge herds of livestock that were very little, but now has increased to a multitude, as written in verse 30. And what do you get? When you look out and you see herds of goats and sheep and stuff and cattle, a lot of them, in fact, the majority of them have spots on them. They're speckled, spotted, or they got, what do they call it here, a ring around them in their fur. So he's giving Laban the majority. He's saying, here, man, you can take that vast amount, the vast majority. I'll just take these little ones or these other ones that don't have anything on them. So we're going to divide up the herd a little bit. 32. 33. And so shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come from my hire before thy face. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. So listen, we're going to divide them up now. And if you see one that's got a speckled spot in my herd, where I have my workers, where I have my sheep herders and my maids and manservants, if you see one of your sheep, you'll be easy to see, because you can just sit there in your high chair, and you can just sit there from your perch, wherever you're sitting, you can see, hey, there's a goat with a spot on it, and that's in his herd. You stole it. Jacob's making it easy. And Laban said, behold, I would it might be according to thy word. Hey, deal. Oh yeah, that sounds great, deal. Because when you look at herds of stuff, you see most of them good spots or something, like on their paw or anything. Laban's going, whoa, that's a great deal. I'll take it. 35. But look what he did. Here's Laban. This is what he did. And he removed that day the he goats that were ring straked and spotted, and all the she goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. Like, he just took off with them right away. Okay, fair enough. He just went in there, he made the deal, and right away, the next day, okay, it seems all right. But then he took off 3 days. Like, he didn't allow the animals to do their natural anything. Like, Jacob could have said, okay, those are yours, these are mine. Let's just give them a little bit of time as nature goes, because I have to increase my herd too. Not Laban. He just took them, and he took off a 3 days journey also. So he's being greasy. He wasn't being fair on this deal at all. The deal was like, those are yours, these are mine. Give him, he didn't say give him some time, but it was a natural thing to do. And then just to take off 3 days with his sons. Jacob's been watching this herd. Where if his son's been the whole time? That's fine. Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flock. Okay, so Jacob even says, hey, they didn't even take them all. They just went in and took a whole bunch and took off. So, and Jacob's standing away. There's still some left here. Okay, that's fine. And this is the funniest thing. We're getting into some Bible teaching here. I've heard this being preached a whole bunch of different ways. That these are some kind of magic trees, or you got to rub this on an animal and get the wood down. And listen, I'm not even going to say all the weird things I've heard over the years, how this has been taught to me. But when you ask for understanding from the Holy Spirit, you're going to see how simple this is. This is plain old farming. This is plain old husbandman of the planet Earth. I'm going to just say it now. He made corrals. He made chutes and corrals. Okay, so now we're going to read it so you know what it is all about first. Jacob took him rods of green poplar and a hazel chestnut tree, and piled white strakes in them, and made them white, and it appeared which was unto rods. What did he do? He took all the bark off. He took all the little things that would grab the fur off. He wanted the chutes to be nice and straight so the cattle could go in there and not get all scraped up and bleeding and stuff like that, and have a nice proper corral with the chutes and the corral, and we've all seen it. And he set the rods which he had built before the flocks in the gutters and the watering troughs that the flocks came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to drink. He had it all set up. Like, the rams are going to be there, and all the other animals, the females got to come drink. He's going to put the best male with all the females. It's all set up at the watering trough. It's a necessity of life, the water. It's a genius way to do it. It's just this natural way to do it. And the flocks conceived before the rods and brought forth cattle, ring-straked, speckled, and spotted. Well, of course they did. Laban left a whole bunch behind, so Jacob went through and picked the best ones, as it's written right here, I think. And Jacob did separate the lambs and set the faces of the flocks towards the ring-straked, and all the brown in the flock of Laban, and he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not unto Laban's cattle. And it came to pass, 41, and it came to pass whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle. Just in other words, close the fence. This isn't some magic voodoo. This isn't going like this towards the cattle with some magic stick. He closed a gate. That's as simple as that. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in. He closed the gate. When they were good, he opened the gate. So the feebler were Laban's and the stronger were Jacob's. Why? Because of verse 35. Jacob went and he greased out his own deal off a fair deal. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maidservants and manservants, and camels and asses. This God's blessings. He's the man, Jacob. This is who we're talking about here. Increased exceedingly with God's blessings. Like, don't ever forget how much he had before Jacob. He didn't have too much. So that's chapter 34, and this is getting really good. And we're going to see how Laban reacts to this. And we're going to see how the poor girls, the daughters, react to this when they feel like they're being counted as strangers. And I hope you're enjoying Genesis chapter 30, and that'll be all for today. And stay tuned to listen how Laban handles this and how Jacob handles this. And don't forget, all these things, as it's written in the book of Corinthians, written for examples for us on how to handle things in our times. So when you come across a slickster like old Laban, just don't forget, God taught you how to handle it.